Very fortunate to have Julia Young with us this evening, who is a rigger and a layout artist at Karrot. She's jumped in because Rufus is unable to make it today. So it'd be really great if somebody was to post some questions in the Q&A. But while we're waiting, Julie, do you want to come on camera?
I'm just trying to at the moment, but I think you've disabled. Here we go. There you go. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. It's great. It's really weird to meet you for the first time and throw you in the deep end in the middle of a live webinar.
Oh, it's a pleasure, and it's nice to see so many people attending. It's really exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's great. So while we don't have any questions from any of the people who are attending at the moment, I thought I'd ask you just a few questions of my own, sort of in the context of sort of Secret Story Draw, really, because I think quite a lot of the people that are watching would be really interested to know. So, how did you yourself first kind of get into the industry? You know, what was your break, and what was your sort of trajectory to get to where you are now?
I've had a bit of a wibbly wobbly route to get to where I am now. I did do a degree in animation, so you would think that would give you a straight ahead thing, but it's funny when you talk to any riggers, they've always got quite a backstory, because I started being an animator. I went down that route and it sort of didn't suit me. I didn't really like just kind of doing one scene and then another scene and then another scene. It felt sort of, I didn't feel like I was able to be as creative as I wanted to be. And then I actually weirdly got into production, so sort of overseeing all of the making of it and the developing of it and things like that. But I sort of missed drawing. So then I went back to design, and then I liked the technical aspect of rigging. So I was very fortunate when I applied to Karrot Animation. They had an opening for a layout artist and a rigger, and they took a chance on me, and I've been rigging now for the last few years.
So how old were you when you got your first break? So was Karrot your first kind of gig?
No, my first gig, I was really lucky. I got a job as an animator pretty much straight out of university. Just with a very, very small studio. I just happened to go to a networking event and they happened to have an opening. And it was one of those things, they were based in the middle of nowhere in Yorkshire. So it was a bit like, well, you know, I have no experience. This could be my break. So I moved to Yorkshire and I worked there for a few months. And once you have one thing on your CV, it's that much easier to get to the next thing and the next thing.
Sure. So social media was clearly a thing, and it was around when you were, a jobbing young animator. So, how important? Because a lot of the people that are on today have Instagram accounts, and I think a lot of the people that are on today would want to ask, like, how best, because you met somebody at a networking event. And that was a lucky break for you. I mean, how often do you use like social media? Is it good to get your stuff out there? And also, like, what kind of portfolio did you have with you when you first approached a studio to get your first job?
Sure, I mean, that's a lot. So just quickly on
yeah.
No, it's okay. Just on the first question of social media, for sure, like a lot of people I know use it all the time, and it's an amazing springboard for them. Personally, like, social media doesn't suit my personality type. I'm a LinkedIn person and a networking person. I'm not really good at the rest of it. I think the key is just to make those connections. So if you are a social media person and you're sort of connecting nicely with people that way, then brilliant, wonderful, do that. But yeah, you can connect with people at networking events, whatever. I think it's important to play to your strengths. I think, it's hard to break into an industry. So if you're making yourself uncomfortable, you're only going to find it harder. So play to your strengths. And as for portfolio, when I left university, I'd made a film at university. So I would show that to people, and that was enough to get my first break.
Great. Julie, those are really great answers. We've got some, as I hoped, I've stimulated some debate, and we've now got some lovely questions coming in. So I'll file this. This one comes from Jasmine, and she said, "Hi, what does your typical day look like?" And she loved the video. Thank you, Jasmine, for that.
Glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, a typical day for me, I tend to work in 2-week cycles. So I have 2 weeks to rig and lay out an episode. So day one of an episode, I'll be briefed by the director with my teammate, and then we'll divide up all the tasks. And then basically we have 8 working days to rig and lay out everything before we then have a review. And then we've got 2 days to make any edits that need to be made. So day 1, planning, day 2 to 8, working to get it all done. And then the last couple of days, just tweaking.
Right. Okay. You know, are you flat out, or are you? I mean,
it depends on the episode. So the last couple of episodes we've been working on have been absolutely flat out, just because it's really nice. Actually, we're on a new series of Love Monster, and it's very ambitious. But that does mean a lot of hard work all the time.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. I know Jamie's here somewhere. So you know. Hi, Jamie. Yeah. Yeah. So I've got another one in from Isuati from London. So how do artists approach a company like Karrot with drawings? Would it be in the form of a book, or could it just be sketches and a simple storyline? I think this is kind of more like, if they've got an idea, how would they pitch that to Karrot? How would that work? I mean,
in terms of pitching ideas, I mean, I can't speak for all studios, but certainly there's often a lot of in-house talent. So in-house talent will be pitching to studios, but I'm sure, like, you know, if you find out who the producer of the studio is and you have a great idea, just an email to start. If they're interested to talk to you, they'll let you know. And if they're not accepting submissions, they hopefully will also let you know.
Great. Okay. I could just to add to that. I mean, there are quite a few really great networking events that are available. I mean, there's a lot of animation festivals that go on in the UK. Manchester Animation Festival. They have one in Ireland. They have them all over the country. There's also the Children's Media Conference that's happening virtually this year. And everybody who submitted to the Secret Story Draw would have got an email from me inviting you to go to that. I got you all free tickets. So if you're on the webinar tonight and you didn't make a submission, but you'd like to go to the Children's Media Conference for free, and it's 150 quid normally, and in person, it's about 400. So if you want to go along to the Children's Media Conference, learn a bit more about our industry, and there is opportunity to network, just like Julia, who went and networked at an event, and and then she's on her journey now. Then please drop me a note later in the chat, and I will organise you a ticket. So Simran Singh asks, he says, hi, do you guys have an in-house pre-production team, such as character designers and concept artists, or do you usually hire freelancers?
Well, Karrot is very good. Usually the people who they have on the team are sort of quite well-rounded artists, so they don't just sort of fit into one slot. They do a lot of different things. So I think between projects, usually it's the people who are already in-house, they'll be asked to have a go at some of the development stuff. So usually it's in-house. Right,
cool, great answer. So Joe asks, hi Julie, he says, thanks for doing the Q&A. That's very nice of him. It's nice to be thanked, isn't it?
Yes, thank you, Joe.
Very polite. Is 2D cutout rigging difficult to get into? And for you, did you learn yourself, or did in university or elsewhere?
As for being difficult to get into, I actually very recently did a thing about rigging with Screen Skills, who it's good to know if you've not come across them yet. There's actually a sort of an industry-wide shortage, according to Screen Skills, of 2D cutout riggers. So if it's something that you do want to specialize in, I do think that there is opportunity there to get into it. Yeah, it's a really good thing to get into. As for learning, I sort of learnt on the job largely. So as I say, I had like quite a wiggly wobbly route into where I am now. So in each of the jobs that I had before I started rigging, I kind of picked up bits and pieces here and there, to the point where when I started at Karrot, I sort of knew what I was doing. And then as the longer I've worked on it, the more I've got to know, and the more accomplished I've become, and the more sophisticated the stuff I've been able to build has become.
Right, do you do any of your own? I mean, do you have time to like do your own stuff? Have you got a little bit of a side hustle going on?
I used to, and now I'm enjoying some free evenings and weekends at the moment. My lockdown promise to myself was just going to take it easy a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I think all of us here, we've been in the middle. I mean, we've all been in the middle of a pandemic. It's very, very easy to work longer hours, just inadvertently. You just because you don't have to get the bus home, or you just sort of. I find myself sitting at my desk, and my wife is actually texting me to say, "John, it's like 7 o'clock. You're coming home." My house is only 10 yards that way, by the way, but it's tricky. So Simran's asked another question. I think I've answered this question, which was about the advice for networking and getting comfortable showing your work. I think the only way you can get comfortable showing your work. I mean, I pitch a lot at a lot of conferences. The only way you can get really comfortable is just to kind of do it.
I was going to say practice makes perfect was what I was going to say. Yeah. Just do it.
You just got to do it. And if you go to a place like the Children's Media Conference, the thing about children's media execs in general, and Jamie, I hope, will back me up on this, is that everybody in this industry is absolutely lovely, mostly. And everyone's been on the same journey, the same trajectory. They've had the same knockbacks, the same failures, the same rejection, the same success, some more successful than others. But everyone's very aware of that and very empathetic to that. So it's very rare that you would ever pitch your work and meet somebody who isn't very pleasant. People are always full of encouragement and advice, and even if they can't help you right there and then, they'll always suggest or put you in a direction of somebody who might be able to help you. I mean, that's certainly been my experience.
Yeah, it's absolutely been mine as well. Like it's quite a tight-knit industry, I've found. People tend to know each other, and we don't want to be working with horrible people. So generally the people who are in the industry are nice people.
Yeah, they certainly are. They certainly are. So Enna Adiola asks a question, great one this. How do you handle crunch time? So as to counteract stress. So you've got your deadline. How do you deal with that?
Well, hopefully, usually in that day one of the episode, we planned it well enough that there is no horrible crunch. But if something's happened, it's taken longer than we expected, and it's just happening because sometimes it does. I mean, head down. I'm a brilliant list maker, but I'm a bit like, I don't know, I'm a bit retentive about it. I need a really good list.
Are you a procrastinating list maker, or are you actually a list maker?
No, like these are my tasks. I've broken down my tasks into the subtasks and the da. And I literally, in order to counteract stress, I just focus on this task, then this task, and just one at a time, and it all gets done. Right. So, I mean, I'm sure everyone copes with it differently, but mine is it's sort of like, from Finding Nemo, just keep swimming. I have my task and I just keep going.
I use Trello quite a lot. I have a Trello board, and there's nothing more delightful than grabbing that card and moving it into the done column. Like, yes, done. It's great.
Wonderful feeling.
So Jamie, I did say Jamie. So for those of you who don't know, Jamie Badminton's the MD at Karrot. Is that right? Is the MD? Is his title? I think it is. A managing director and all-round creative genius. So he's just agreed with what I just said. He said he very much agreed that we are a lovely industry, and Karrot themselves are very, very keen to meet everyone. So there you go. So that's right from the horse's mouth. That's lovely to hear. So Amarin has asked a question. It's making me feel a bit sad, actually. So I'm just going to read it. Hello. I hope you're both well. I just finished my animation degree at university and now feeling a little lost. I really want to pursue a career within children's TV, creating content for a preschool audience. I have plans to do freelancing as well as applying for any internship jobs, which is what I have started doing. What advice would you give to become more noticeable to future employees, as well as going about freelancing?
Oh, well, I'm sorry you're feeling a bit lost. That's not a nice place to be in. And again, I think it's part of the reason why people in animation are very nice, is I think a lot of us have gone through a very similar feeling. So first of all, you're not alone, and it does get better. I think just whatever it is that you're doing, be it concept art, or you didn't say exactly which area you're in, if you just focus on doing that as well as you can, and just making sure your show reel and your portfolio are as good as they as good as you want them to be, and just keep at it. I mean, you know, so many people I know from university and things, it took them, you know, a while after graduating to get into the industry just because of opportunity or whatever just wasn't quite there in that moment, or whatever the reason. Yeah, just try not to become disheartened, because, you know, if you're good and you're good to work with, yeah, those are the two things that were told to me when I was starting out. Be good at what you do and be good to work with, and then opportunities will hopefully come your way.
I would add one more to the mix, and that is just be bold. Be bold with your requests of people. You know, if you don't, as my grandma used to say, if you don't ask, you don't get. But you know, if you just make a bold request of somebody, you know, I think quite often we, you know, especially during the pandemic, we get on calls and we have a chat and it's all lovely, and then you get off the call and you think that didn't really go the way I wanted, or I didn't get what I needed off that call. It's because you probably didn't ask a bold enough request, you know. So I would definitely say, in fact, on my laptop here, there's a big post-it note and it says, "What bold request can you make today, John?" So I'm always in the top of my mind, always like, what can I ask, you know. So I've got another question from Hannah Joseph. This is a good one, actually. If you're a complete beginner, a total beginner with animation, where would you suggest getting started?
Complete beginner, never having done it before. Gosh, I suppose it's one of the, a bit like just do it, really. I mean, there's a lot of software out there that you can get started on. You know, Adobe Animate has a 30-day free trial, I think it is. So just start. I mean, there are wonderful YouTube tutorials out there, wonderful books on it. Richard Williams, Preston Blair, they're the classics. But if you want to animate, then yeah, you just need to start animating, really.
Yeah, great. Okay, thank you. I think we've got, and so I've got one. I think I've got one last question, which is from Lashmi. And she's asked, I've got a film background, but I'm interested in maybe transitioning to animation. And I'm guessing a good start would maybe be a runner position. Do these exist in animation studios?
I would say possibly in the larger ones, but usually they're CG or VFX. I mean, John, do correct me if you think I'm off the mark there, but I don't know if I know of any runners in 2D studios.
No, I don't think 2D studios quite often they're quite small, compact. There's just not the, you know, I mean, yeah, for maybe Jellyfish or Dean Egg or Blue Zoo, they might have a, you know, I mean, so Blue Zoo, who are amazing, they got 400 people, do you know, 400 people. I mean, that's crackers.
And so, they do internships as well, which is unusual.
Well, they are doing an internship for the Secret Story Drawer, actually.
Okay.
So there's an internship going at Blue Zoo, but yeah, they have 400 people. So yeah, you know, runners, I'm sure they have something along those lines. And she said, I forgot to say hello and thank you for organising the event. You're very, very welcome. I don't think I have any other questions to ask, unless anybody else has got anything they want to ask last minute. Otherwise, I mean, Batul, you're listening here. Have you got any questions that you'd like to ask? I know you're not actually on camera, but have you got anything you'd like to ask? If you don't, then that's fine.
I don't really have any questions, but I just wanted to say, like, honestly, incredible work. Like, watching the video, I didn't actually appreciate how much goes into animation. So that was really, really cool. So well done to you guys at Karrot Studios.
Ruth did a really nice job with the video. And just to like expand on what he was saying a little bit, like cutout 2D animation is such a brilliant medium, which has so many possibilities, I think. You know, he sort of showed you the range of sort of all the way from South Park to Rick and Morty. There's so much you can do with it. It's nowhere near, you know, South Park really lean into the really cut out marionette thing, but it can become so sophisticated. It's a wonderful thing to get into if you're interested.
Great. Jamie Badminton, MD of Karrot, has just posted, this is really great to hear. He said, if your work stands out, that they do remember you, and they might not always have an opening right there and then, but the next time you send a cheeky hello, what happens is that the companies that you're saying hello to and reaching out to, they build up a really positive picture of you. And Jamie himself started as a production assistant, so and a production assistant is sort of a bit of a dog's body. It's pretty much it's get me a thing, get me a this, get me a that, and then and you get to take on more and more responsibility, and that's kind of how it works. You get given some responsibility, you rise to it, you accept the challenge, you're trusted, and that's kind of how these things roll. And I think we've got one final question from, oh no, we've got a few more. Wow, everyone's coming in, everyone's piling in. Here we go. Look, Anna, she said, I'm still a beginner to doing cutout. Has there been any cutout animation internships before? I don't know the answer to that question. Has there been any?
It depends on the studio. I mean, you mentioned Blue Zoo, and they're the ones I know for doing internships, but I think you'd have to check the different studios to see what they're offering.
Sure. Joe asks, do you have any portfolio advice for aiming for the children's media industry specifically? For example, what kind of projects are interesting to see? Are there things that shouldn't be put in? So I can respond to this specifically. So the children's media industry is like any industry, and it goes in trends. So if you go to a market like Kidscreen in Miami, which is a very expensive thing to do, and I wouldn't recommend it unless you've got a studio and you know what you're doing. But what's my point? So yeah, they're going trends. So last year it was all about robots and AI, and you can see that in the industry. You can see what kind of animation is coming out. So different studios have different, or broadcasters and studios have sort of different things that they're looking for. And quite often what they do before a big market is they quite often share what they're looking for. So at Kidscreen, all the broadcasters will stand up and they have a 30-minute session where they basically explain to everybody who's listening what types of content they're looking for in the next 12 to 18 months that they want to fill up their portfolio with. So it does really change. But I would say if you've got like a really awesome standout idea, then it's a really awesome standout idea. So there is certainly some trends. I mean, Jamie might jump in on the chat in a minute and completely derail that comment, but I'm pretty sure that's kind of how it sort of works quite a lot of the time.
Just as a general note as well, obviously that's very good advice for pitching a project, but if it's just a portfolio that you have, I would just say keep it relevant. So if you're aiming at the children's media industry, don't fill your portfolio with stuff that's for adults. If you want to work for a studio that does preschool, have a preschool friendly portfolio. Just target what you want to do, I would say.
That's really great advice. Yeah. I never got into art college. I wanted to be a graphic designer, and I didn't take along hardly any graphic design. Just lots of still lifes and bowls of fruit. And the guy was like, nah, no. So there you go. Right. Any Adiola asks, thank you for the advice. I've had a history of cutout animation in Flash. Now I'm somewhat learning it in Blender. Can one actually stick to a limited number of software so as not to exceed his boundaries, or what do you suggest?
I think it's very good advice to sort of have a specialization. I mean, it's very good to be able to do lots of things, but that's sort of no good if you can't do any of them very well. So if you enjoy using Blender, then become brilliant at Blender. If you want to get into children's cutout animation, I think the two biggest pieces of software in this country are maybe Cell Action and Toon Boom, maybe Flash. So yeah, specialization, so you can really know what you're doing in one thing, I would say might be more valuable than being able to do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, brilliant answer. In fact, it's actually and then asks later another question which you just succinctly answered perfectly. So I'm going to, Jamie's just added a couple of little bits and pieces. I think after this, I may well wrap up the webinar for this evening. So Jamie just says that that Cal like to see drawings that have charm, charming acting and images that tell stories. I think and that's one of the things that we tried to capture with the Secret Story Drawer, was that the stories that people were responding to were almost the creative briefs for what it was that we were expecting to get back. So the images had to sort of tell a story in some way. And Jamie says, if we see an image composition that creates an emotion or tells a story, then that's when they get most excited, which I think is a lovely way to end this evening. So Julia, I just want to thank you once more for jumping in at the last minute to help with the Q&A.
Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, you've been an absolute pleasure. You've been an absolute pleasure. And I just want to thank everybody that has taken their evening out, Mr. Football, Mr. Dinner, or whatever it is that they've missed, to be on the webinar this evening, and to spend some time with us. And again, once more, thank you to all those of you that are on the call today who have made a submission to the Secret Story Drawer. Honestly, the standard of the work has been truly amazing. So I think we're gonna sign off now. But thanks ever so much, everyone, for joining. And Julia, again, thanks very much. And Jamie, if you're listening, thanks very much for chipping in with your really valuable input. Thanks very much. Okay, guys, have a lovely evening. Bye.
Bye.